What's up, everybody? Seller Club Podcast, episode number 73. Let's drop that beat. All right, today's going to be one of those hustler hacks type of topics, live show type of topics, where we go through and we go through this nice little segment I have here, which Anna and Ken have no clue what we're going to talk about today, which makes the show... Clue. Yeah, really, really fun. So, Ken, how are you?
It really
first?
is a live show for us.
Yeah, exactly.
Good. Working on some side projects, building some wooden rack shelves. So that's my last week, basically. So, doing some Bob the Builder things.
You sound like you've been busy.
Busy for sure, busy.
And Anna, how are we?
Also busy, not building anything wooden per se, but yeah, lots of like house projects, yard projects, procrastinating my real work projects. But it's been really good. I talked about this a little bit on social media last week, but this is like what it's all about for me, having the flexibility to do like this week I'm going to work 10 hours because in January I worked 50 or 60 hours a week, and now it's like the time to actually like, you know, enjoy the flexibility that I really do have and take advantage of it. And things are still selling great. Like Q2 is off to a great start. So I'm very happy with it.
What about you, Glenn? What have you been up to?
Same thing. Just same consistent thing. Nothing.
Surprise.
Oh, shocker.
Nothing new.
Nothing
crazy,
new. Nothing surprising.
Nothing surprising.
Nothing crazy.
Just trying to stay on my train tracks, you know, and moving forward. That's all we can do. All right, so today, reselling in 3D, our topic. So 3 D words that will help you dominate this year for 2025 in reselling.
I like that.
All right.
I just want to dominate this summer.
I know. I'm ready to
goal.
dominate. Let's go.
Yeah, that's a good goal. So
if you dominate summer, you dominate the year. Ooh.
Oh, that is true.
You dominate like half the year. The year's halfway over already.
You dominate summer, you have nothing left for Q4.
Right. And then you hibernate. Dominate, hibernate. Dominate, hibernate.
I like
okay,
that.
what are we actually talking about? The 3 Ds.
All right, so the
Please
first
get
one.
us back on track.
Okay, the first one, which it's not the greatest, but you have to start somewhere. Dreaming.
Oh.
You need
Maybe
a clear...
it is the greatest. I like this one.
Okay,
Actually, it could be the
vision.
greatest.
Clear vision on what you want your business to look like. Because you have to start at some point, especially if you're like working full time. Can you dream, think, imagine what your life would look like getting into becoming a full-time seller? Even a part-time seller after work. What does that look like? How do you achieve this? You know, and even being told probably from the very beginning, hey, this is what I'm thinking about doing. Some people like to share their ideas with other people. Some people don't, because sometimes you'll get negative feedback on that too. Like, what do you mean reselling full-time? What do you mean part-time? You think you have time for this? What about focusing on your full-time, you know, career, job? You know, so I think also what comes into play is kind of like even Ken's story from wanting to get into or seeing what that American dream looks like, right? And so coming into the U.S. and what he wanted to do after working and doing different jobs, you know, from, would you say kind of like a telemarketing type of thing?
Yeah, it was.
And then you're also doing some
Customer
Uber driving,
service.
things like that.
Yeah.
So it was a little mix of things. But what did you think that dream looked like, maybe before and after coming here? You know, in the Philippines, what did that look like? And actually being here, what did that look like?
One is like I wanted to go to experience new things. So that was applying for a job was one thing, you know, like never went through that process. So that was cool. I think I over prepared myself. But it was fun. The grind and the journey to improve was very fun and challenging at the same time. So that's kind of like how it looked like. I think it was cool to have a paycheck every other week.
Mm.
I like that.
I like that.
That was pretty nice.
That was pretty nice. And
Yeah.
over time, like I didn't know that they can tell you to not work too much because you're racking up overtime hours. So that was new.
What was the, I guess, feedback when telling everybody that you wanted to go to the U.S. and pretty much
Yeah,
live like a different life? I mean,
yeah, I think it was one or the other because I had businesses in the Philippines. I always been entrepreneurial there, so they were like, "Why would you go there and work for somebody when, there's people working for you here?" So that was kind of like it was a polarized, very contrasting. But I knew there was opportunity here compared to more opportunity here, and obviously, we're selling on eBay now, doing it full time. So I it was probably been really hard if I sold on eBay coming out of the Philippines just because our shipping is too expensive there.
got it.
Was anybody really mad that you were leaving, like, because they wouldn't see you all the time anymore?
Yeah, I mean, but they kind of knew if I was fixing something, it was gonna happen one way or another.
Yeah.
They didn't want to
But
hold him back. You can't cage the beast.
you can't. Yeah,
You can't.
There's so many few things that could hold me back, but yeah, it was.
Wait a minute. Is B short for beast?
Oh,
Or is the ST just silent?
It is.
BEEST. That's what it is.
B.
That's that's how it's supposed to.
Like a
that's how it's
wildebeest.
supposed to be spelled. if we consult Anna's dad, he would say that's how it should. It's not biased.
Yes. You know what?
It's not biased.
Biased. I'll ask him. I'm sure Doug would love to weigh in on that.
Right. You should ask him.
It's not biased.
You're right. It's not biased. It's beast.
It's the beast.
Yeah. So yeah. It was interesting and polarizing for sure. I never would have thought that I would have lasted this long. I knew it was a struggle. I knew it was gonna be a struggle. Because no family here. But in the back of my head, it's like worst case scenario, I can just buy a plane ticket and go home.
Yeah.
So before we get into Anna, though, one last thing. So what about that dream of becoming a reseller, though? Because you had already been doing like Uber and any other jobs. You guys been making money, but then you were watching some YouTube videos, things like that. So how did that dream even look like? Could this even be a reality?
Yeah, that was a tough part because it was kind of like the stars aligned because I was buying sneakers on eBay, and it got to a point where I had a collection already, right? And driving Uber was kind of like the cross between me going full time. So quit my telemarketing job, driving Uber, and then move to selling full time on eBay. But while I was driving Uber, I was already kind of like I was using Uber to pay the bills, and then my extra time was to hustle and build a business. So that was a big realization. It's like, wait, I could kind of like own my own schedule, which, as Anna would always say, loving the flexibility. That's what I wanted. You know how those memes say, I quit my 9 to 5 job and now I work 24/7.
And now I work 80 hours a week for myself. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think you don't really know what it is until you cross that line. But yeah, it was interesting, but I'm a dreamer. I feel like I'm a dreamer. I dream a lot of things, but I never thought it would have resulted to this big because my first goal was just to do 100,000 on eBay, and then net half, and I was like, that's livable income for like if I'm just not spending a lot of money. I could pay my rent. I could pay my car, and own a lot of time, right? Because 100,000 would have been only 1,000 listings. So that was
But you don't like build a whole business to just like scrape by either,
Yeah.
And like it reminds me of the analogy about when you're going up a mountain. It's like you can't see the next vista until you get to you get to one, and then from there you can see so much more and so much
Right.
further and so much higher. And it's like it's one dream to the next, right? It's like
Yeah, and sometimes I kind of like, because like after hitting that 100, now you just become hungry. It's like, okay, can I do 200? Can I do 300? Can I do 400? And and it comes with a lot of like challenges and stress when you start dreaming, right? I feel like the more you dream, the bigger your dream is. Like it's kind of like innocent in the beginning, but when you start to think about how to apply it, now you start thinking like, oh, this is challenging,
Yeah.
right? Like when I had $100,000 a year, I basically didn't have an apartment. I was literally live in a warehouse,
You lived in a
Yeah.
shoebox.
right? I live in a shoebox. So I was like, oh, this is not livable or sustainable over time. And I knew it wasn't going to be fun over time, like not having a dining table, not having a couch, only having a computer desk for everything. So, yeah, it's definitely a challenge. You actually question your dream here and there. Once you're like closing to it, it's like, is this really what I wanted? And then
Yeah.
you just go for the next bigger dream, I guess.
And Anna, what did your reselling dream look like?
Yeah, I think when you initially introduced dream as like one of these three pillars, right? Like I immediately thought about visualizing and how important that was, like using your imagination for good instead of anxiety, right? Or for evil or for worst case scenarios or whatever. And I think when I started my business, I was very much an accidental entrepreneur, as eBay loves to say. But I started it as a little side gig. I never thought it would become my full-time thing that was like at the center of my work at the time that I started. And if, like really just imagining that, like imagining kind of further and further down that road and like what my life would be like was really what changed my mind about that, I guess. And what changed my mind to kind of pursue it as a full-time thing, and also motivated me to, like Ken was just talking about, constantly troubleshoot, like, okay, I have this vision, how can I actually make this happen? Like, how can this actually become workable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you run into all these challenges and things change, and you're never pursuing a dream in like a perfect environment. So it definitely kept me motivated to figure out those things, right? Like, well, if it doesn't work this way, then how can it work? Right? Let's find
Yeah.
the way that does work. And I think that dream and kind of that vision of, like, for me, is very much like the totality of what my actual like lifestyle would be like if I realized this dream. That was so motivating and so powerful, and helped me to be really persistent when things were difficult, or even when things were boring, right? It's like I never I mean, do I love selling on eBay? Like, yes, it means so much more to me and is so much more to me than just like the sum of the actions it takes to do that. But, sometimes it's like totally a grind, and like the individual actions you have to do all the time are not like the most fun possible way to like spend my life.
Mm-hmm.
But in the context of that bigger dream, I love it, and it is really rewarding. So, yeah, I think the dream really is like, it's the beginning and the end, right? It's the beginning and the end of your motivation. And also just like your direction. Like, it can feel really pointless or meaningless or boring if you're not going in a direction, right?
Yeah, exactly. So dream, I think, is very important, very good to start off. Even if you're just getting into it, I mean, kind of like a step
Yeah.
number one, and seeing that vision and kind of doing also like research on as well, what would that look like and so on. So our second D is decisions. And there's a decision to do nothing if you want to, because they're all dreams to begin with. So that decision is either you're going to take action or you're not. And so if your dream looks like, well, I want to do this with reselling, or I want to do that, or I wish I could do this. And there's even times in your dream where you're thinking, well, what's the perfect time to take action on this, or so on. But in reality, that decision to do something, needs to start now. And so when you decide to take whatever that first action is, so many decisions come after that. So you buy one item, then what? What's your decision to move forward with this one item? What if you buy, a bunch of stuff at a garage sale, at a flea market, a store, you buy out a whole storage unit? What's your decision now? How are you going to move these items? First off, how are you going to, I guess, remove all these items from the storage unit? Where are you going to put these items? How are you going to sell these items? So decisions have to be made from there on out, and some decisions are going to be bad. Some are going to be good. Some will be a learning process in the end. But I believe that decision making is pretty much going with you going forward. I mean, the dream one is as well, but now you're making critical decisions as your business gets larger as well. So, Ken, feedback, decision making.
You have to decide quick. That's my kind of like, I guess I would say that is a good trait that I have. I decide quick. I say that because a lot of times when people have dreams, and I've seen this with a lot of people, they talk about their dreams, right? And then you ask them again, like, where are you at on the dream? And they say, like, oh, like, I'm still thinking about it, trying to figure out how to make it happen. And then you come back to them again, like, hey, it's been a year. Where's that dream at? Right? And a lot of times, instead of, I guess it's, Anna could add into it, is the question probably would be, is it human nature that the more you gather information, a lot of it is based on like a survival gathering information, like, hey, what, then you start playing the what if game, like, what if I fail, what if I lose money, what if I, and a lot of that is just like kind of like more on like defense decision. You're playing defense when you're trying to make
100%.
and I don't think it's, if you are an entrepreneurial person, if you have a knack for business, you shouldn't prioritize the defensive decision before the making it happen decision, whatever it takes first. I decide yes, and I'll research how to make it happen. A lot of people don't decide, and they research all scenarios.
Yeah.
Like, what if I do this? What if, and I think part of my first year was, I just decided yes that I was gonna go for 100,000 in the first year, and I didn't know how hard it was until I actually started making it happen. I was like, man, I opened my mouth. That was really big when I saw everybody, because a lot of times those fears come from, oh man, if Glenn couldn't do this, I couldn't do this. Man, I've seen somebody try it and they fail. I couldn't do this. So now they're basing their decisions based on the what ifs that could happen that they've seen around them. Mm-hmm. And that's totally discounting the hunger and the drive that's within you to succeed. So I would say, don't rely on the external factors when deciding. Rely on the internal factors where whether it's going to be hard or not, do I have it in me that I'm going to stick to this decision? And if you can stick to that decision, you are actually feeding your mind and your psyche that, wait, if I say yes to this, I'm going to make it happen, whatever it takes. So those are the people that actually get things done. But if they keep telling themselves, like, I'm going to do this, and they don't, they're literally tricking themselves, like, oh, you're a guy that will say this, but that won't do that.
Yeah.
And it's not just going to ruin you internally, it's going to ruin you externally, because now people are going to say, like, oh, you're a fraud. You're not a real thing. So that's my take on that one.
That's a good take, because it's like you are basically building trust with yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some part of you hears yourself make yourself those promises and not keep them, or like not follow through, right? And that really does affect us. But yeah, I think you're dead on with the gathering information. Like, I love that idea of decide and then gather the information, because here in my opinion and my clinical expertise, but also just like my life experience, like so many times when we go on to gather a little more information, just find out a little bit more, all we're trying to do is have something that resembles control in the situation. And when we can't actually control the outcome, getting more information feels like control. It feels like you're getting an edge where you're going to have more control than you otherwise would, right? When the reality is you just have to go out and do it and figure it out along the way most of the time. But I don't know if you've heard the term before, Ken, analysis paralysis.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah, but that's totally where that comes from. And you're right. It's like you have this force inside of you that wants to drive forward and wants to make it happen. And you're basically just like pouring water all over that fire by overly researching and even just overly relying on other people's experience, because
Yeah.
you're your own person and you're in your own reality with your own experience,
Right.
and it's not necessarily going to turn out the same way.
Yeah.
So you
And
just
the
have
crazy
to go.
part is
yeah,
the same will within you, or the same belief could make a dream happen. It's the same power or a strong of a decision maker that could tell your own self to not make it happen and don't do it because you fail.
yeah,
It's not like, it's not like we're built, okay, your go for it factor is 100%, but don't go for it factor is 50. No, it's both 100.
yeah.
It's just a matter of where you point that, that
Yeah.
direction. It's like, okay, I'm going forward. It's
Well,
kind of like
really,
a car, right? The
what
same
you
engine.
feed, yeah.
Yeah, it's the same engine that runs reverse and forward. So it's just a matter of, because a lot of people are like, oh, I'm just going to step on the gas. The problem is, are you going to step on the gas going backwards or going
Yeah.
forward? Because it's the same car. It's the same
And
engine.
that is exactly one of those sneaky ways that we actually have more control over our situation than we think we do.
The
right?
direction we're
we
going.
don't have the control over the outcome,
Yep.
but our control over our situation and our position in that situation is actually usually more than we think.
Yep,
And
that's true.
yeah, I don't know. This is like a huge topic, but I'll say just a couple things because I know we have another D to talk about. But the first thing I thought of, Glenn, when you said decision was fatigue. Decision fatigue. That is something that I even ran a business before this business. Like that, my full-time job was running my own business before this. And I never realized, I guess I wasn't as aware of it with that business, but with my eBay store, it became very obvious to me, like, wow, so much of the mental energy that goes into running this business is just so many decisions all the time. It's just constant demand to make decisions, which is why having good processes is so important, because it eliminates a lot of those decisions, right? So decision fatigue, I just like smiled as soon as you said decision, because my like instant association with the word decision is fatigue, which is probably not good. But it made me think too that, especially thinking of this as a business owner, your no is just as important as your yes. I just said no to something today for my business that maybe could have been a cool opportunity, but it was too much of an outlier. And it probably would have cost me more time, money, and effort than I really wanted to put into it, even though it was an interesting opportunity. And I think that saying no to that really just protected the rest of my business and the goals that I've set for myself this year and this quarter that might have been kind of derailed by this outlier thing that came up.
Yeah.
So no and yes are very powerful words, and we're always making those decisions like 100 million times a day when you're running a business.
And for examples, I guess for everyone in different, I guess, levels of reselling, you have that decision to drive to the next store or not. Either you can go home, hey,
Just
I didn't
one
find
more,
anything
Ross.
today. I
Just
know,
one
one more. Whether you're going to Goodwill's or whatever, hey, one more store. You can go to 10 more stores. I mean, your decision and hey, today was on fire. I'm going to keep going. Hey, today sucked. I'm going to keep on going. I mean, you make that decision on what you want to do for the next store. I know Ken is driven to so many stores in different states and making that extra effort. I know there was one time where his wife JC made that decision to drive on her own. Was it to Atlanta, I think? I mean,
No, it was like up to northern Detroit.
Oh, it was in north.
Detroit.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh,
that-
Detroit.
that drive was longer. It was like, was it raining? I forgot what was going on.
Yeah, it was during like.
But she
you
got
know,
home
like,
late too. I
Yeah.
mean, that was a long drive too.
And
Did she get 70 cents a mile? That's what I want to know.
well, back then it wasn't.
It was probably like 50
50.
cents.
It was 50
Yeah,
cents.
exactly.
Yeah, she did decide. I mean, I told her like you could stay at home, and she at this point, right? Like the reason why she drove late because she's like, if I stayed in a hotel, that'd be like $150, and that would eat into our profits. So that would have been a profit for 2 of the soccer cleats that she sourced. So I think that day me and Glenn were in Dallas. So because
Yeah,
of the
we
time
were.
difference, we just kept her on the phone and just talked to
Yeah.
her. That way she would stay awake. But yeah, she actually out hustled us during that day. She got more fines than we did.
Than we did. Yeah.
That's amazing.
So yeah, I mean the power of decision is big.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny though because let's say whatever store, garage sale, wherever you get to, Now you get to make that decision. Do I buy this or not?
Yeah,
Is this
a lot.
And very quick decisions, like Ken said, when there's competition around as well.
No,
And
even worse, right?
even worse. So you got to decide on the fly: is this something that works for me? For works for my business? Is this something that's going to be profitable or not? And if it isn't, there's just so many ways this could go. So
Yeah, and also to add to that, that's why I say decide quick, because it goes both ways. When you decide to buy the wrong item and you made a mistake, you gotta decide quick to let go of it and take the loss.
yeah,
I've seen a lot of sellers. It's a bad buy,
Yeah.
and it's been 2 years and it's still sitting on their
It's
store.
the sunk cost fallacy.
I'm like, yeah, right? Because like a lot of people's like, oh, I already spent my time and do this, but eventually you gotta get rid of it, because one way or another, it's costing you storage, it's costing you capital money for it to be sitting there over time when
Yeah.
you have other options to buy better items now, and
Yeah.
and you have to decide quick, and that's why I say quick. And it's like, and then you cannot be like, oh, what if it goes up? Like, yeah, everything goes up if you wait 50 years.
It's called vintage. Hello.
Yeah, everything goes up.
Y2K.
Yeah.
Oh no! Don't say that. That hurts
Yeah.
my soul.
Pretty soon we're vintage.
I know. So it's kind of funny though. After you buy that great item, you still have to make that decision if I'm gonna take pictures and list this or not. Because you
Yeah.
could just throw it onto the death pile. That's
That's
also a
fine.
You
decision.
could.
That's also a
It's
decision.
already
Oh man,
it's another
what a
D.
great quote! A
Death
death pile is a decision.
Oh. We're gonna have to use that for our Wisdom Wednesday.
That's your
That's
next
gonna
T-shirt
sting.
slogan.
Right?
Yeah. A
Death
death
pile's a
pile is a
decision.
decision.
So after
Just imagine me looking over my glasses at you.
see,
It's a
exactly.
decision.
It is. After that decision, and so many thousand decisions right after that, comes
I bet I
to
know what the third one is.
the third one, which is
Let's see if Anna's right.
let's see if
say it,
Anna's
Glenn.
right.
Should we?
Let me
Say
know.
you say it, Anna. What is
I
it?
think it's do.
Well, it's very close. I had discipline because
That's about doing.
yeah, it is
Yeah,
about
yeah,
doing
yeah.
very disciplined.
I'm gonna
in your
give myself
business.
a half a point.
Yeah, no, it's very relatable in both sides. Because here's the question, I guess, for each of you on what are you disciplined about in your business that you're getting it done and making sure you're getting it done. I think you probably get to a point to where there is no ifs or nos. Like this has to get done,
Yep.
Yeah.
and it's a priority, and I'm disciplined about it in order for it to happen, make it work. So, Ken?
I think the biggest thing, and I've said this over and over again, this was in the early days. I think our first 3 years, it was a rule, and Glenn knew about this, that everything needs to be listed within 24 hours, and we sleep after.
No, yeah, that's very true.
And that was the challenge. Me and Jace would be sleeping at 2, 3 in the morning. And, like when you're starting, it was, little capital. You're spending $500. The most I probably spent was $600, $700. And, it could be get you like 30 items to 50 items. And the decision that we made was list now, sleep later. Because I couldn't afford to have inventory not being sold. Because like, how they say like, oh, you could make money when you're sleeping. Well, it's not gonna get
Not
bought
unless it's listed.
Yeah, unless it's listed, right?
Yeah.
It's not gonna list itself.
You're
so
right.
so that was kind of like the decision, the discipline that we created, and it held us long. To this point, we don't do that anymore, but it is kind of like embedded within us that it's like I'm hurting when I see unlisted inventory. Like a lot of people it's like, oh, it's potential profit. For me, it's like it's an expense. It's not on a profit column for me. It's on an expense column, because if it's not, if it's not listed, then it's not an asset if it's not listed, because it's just dead, right? Like that, it's a death pile. It's like not making you anything. It's not doing anything. And yeah, I see people it's like, oh, I just keep it for the rainy day. Like, no, we don't live in a world where we can't get products, and that's I think what we
Yeah.
have to understand. There's always going to be product to be bought. So living in a like kind of like, so that's just discipline, right? I think like it's a lack of discipline overall, that to not be able to process items, and if you can't physically, time wise, if you have zero time, that's when your system is quote unquote broken, your business is quote unquote broken. Like, you have to find a way. Either you sleep less or you hire somebody. Those are just the two things that you have to figure out. And Glenn did the latter. He hired somebody.
Very
Well,
true.
wouldn't you rather, on a rainy day, like that proverbial rainy day, wouldn't you rather be like sitting around a fireplace reading a book while stuff that's already listed is selling instead of listing?
I like
You know what
that.
I mean?
On
Like,
a rainy day, everything's listed, so I chill.
yeah.
I
Like,
like
take
that.
those opportunities for a breather, you know?
I like that. Right, yeah.
And Anna, what do you think about the discipline side?
You
Or
know,
what does that look
everyone
like for you?
everyone loves discipline. Well, honestly, the thing that I am the most disciplined about, I won't say by far, but most consistently, is shipping. And there's like intrinsic and extrinsic reasons why I stay on top of my shipping, right? Where other stuff, other tasks like sourcing and listing can be more flexible. Like shipping is not a question. It's like
That's
getting
true.
done on time, you know? And like it's not just because there are like account level consequences for that. Like it is kind of like built in at this point. But I do think even though I am like more flexible about some of the other activities, I still like I hate having a death pile. Like I don't want to have a pile of anything around long enough to qualify as a death pile, you know?
Yeah.
Like if it's I don't have the 24-hour rule like Ken, but I do have like an internal meter for that where I'm like, okay, this has just been sitting here too long. But there are times where it can be strategic in that okay, you know, you've sourced some things, maybe you would have listed them this week, but then a different opportunity came along and you took advantage of that, and now you just have twice as many things as you thought you would have, and so it's going to take you longer. Like, that's just math, and like, that's fine. As long as you stay on top of, you know, processing it and you don't just go like, well, now all of this becomes a pile and it's just going to be there indefinitely until I feel like working on it. It's not about what you feel like doing, right? That's
Yeah.
not what discipline is. So definitely, even if my timelines are more flexible, some of those other things, there is no question that I'm returning to those activities on a regular basis. And
Yeah.
shipping is the tightest scheduled thing that I have for sure.
Yeah, now that definitely makes sense. I mean, the monies came in, now the shipping part, and you're not done yet. I mean,
Yeah.
still have to ship out that product and then follow through and see, you know, we'll see what happens after that, whether the customer likes it or not, or what they decide to do. But yeah,
Yeah.
the shipping part is it is a daily it's a daily task as long as things are selling, no matter what.
Yeah, and I mean shipping is a highly controllable part of the process too. So it's like
That's true.
satisfying to do my very best when I'm doing that part of the process, and it is easy in some ways for that step particularly to be really consistent.
Yeah. We got one bonus.
Bonus.
It's a bonus. All right.
We love a bonus.
Bonus is difficulties. Now, the difficulties that you will face in your business in this journey while you're building up your eBay store.
The bonus nobody asked for.
Yeah, the
Difficulties.
one you don't want. But these difficulties can create opportunities that you don't really think about because people just want
Yeah.
to see the downside of things, the difficult, how hard things get. But in reality, the most successful sellers, they're great because of the difficulties they have faced
Yep.
and their ability to either move forward or maybe they pivot or they figure out a way to still make it happen. So, and some difficult parts of the business are not really that difficult in reality. You're overthinking things, and some of them are really huge problems that you're really going to have to overcome. But in the end, you're not going to ignore the difficulties regardless. They're just going to come with having your own business.
Yeah, like you said, to dominate, you have to grow. And when you're growing, there's going to be difficulty. When you're trying to expand, there's going to be difficulty. And, you know, I think you're only having a difficult time if you're trying to experience new things you haven't had before, right? Like, it's most simple ways. Like, if you go to a restaurant where you've never been before, the difficulty would be trying to order off the menu that you don't know anything about. And the same thing with business, right? The difficulty of how to ship 100 items a day. It's difficult, but you have obviously figured it out through selling on Whatnot. One man show could do it. For some people, it's like, man, I sell 100 a week on eBay, but you sell 100 every day. Like, it's just a challenge, and I think it's constant. A lot of people are, I guess, like, allergic to difficulties, but the ones that actually win embrace it. Because, like you said, there are lessons to be learned. Your skill is going to improve only when you're having a difficult time. When you're not having a difficult time, you're playing in the little leagues. That's what I always say, right? Like, if you're just dunking on people, the rim's too short. So if you want to dominate, you have expect difficulty, expect challenges.
Yeah,
it's the only way. I think that is a marker or a what would we call that? It would be a tail sign. It's a sign that you're trying to do things beyond what you are capable of, or bigger than what you've always dealt with. So if you're having a difficult time, that means you're trying to accomplish something bigger than you've had before.
Yeah.
And if you haven't had difficulties, that means you're maintaining. That's it. If you're just cruising around and cruising along. So you decide. You want more difficulties or not?
Anna, what do you think?
I think yes. I think there's a sweet spot as human beings that for us facing challenges where it has to be like kind of within reach. It's like just marginally outside of what we're able to do or able to handle already. It can't be too difficult or we'll fail completely or we won't do it. And it can't be too easy or, like you said, we're just maintaining or we're like lazy and not growing. Like, if you want to grow, if you want to be effective, if you want to be satisfied, it has to be in that margin of kind of your growing edge, right? It has to be right in that sweet spot of enough challenge that you're engaged, but also it like keeps you on your toes and pushes you forward. Like, there's so much well-documented research about that kind of stuff and just like the human experience of growing. And I think, all of us, I don't know, maybe we take this for granted sometimes that like the three of us and a lot of our other seller friends are just like growth minded people. Like, it's kind of a given that we want to grow. And even if we're not like trying to grow, like, the size of our store or something, we're trying to grow as business people. We're trying to do business better. We're trying to be more profitable. You know what I mean? Like, I think a lot of us do have a growth mindset, but that is kind of where you got to be like marginally uncomfortable and unprepared. And that's where you want to be if you want to see like the real fruits of those efforts, right? And the taking on those challenges, like the rewards for actually taking on the difficulties. So I say welcome them. Like, you don't have to welcome something completely impossible and overwhelming, but welcome some difficulty for sure.
And some opportunities come their way or your way, and a lot of resellers could have a dream that, I don't know, you go to a garage sale and they have a bunch of, I don't know, let's
Rembrandts.
say, let's say they have, I don't know, like 500
it's the
units.
Truckload of iPads. The truckload of
iPads or something, right?
We're back.
So there's your dream that this thing, and let's say you're there. Now you got to make a decision, and the guy's like, hey, I have a best deal on it. You want it or not? Because I have another guy who wants it. He's on his way. So you got to make a decision, whether, let's say you don't really have quite enough capital for it, but you could get the money somehow.
We don't know if they all work.
We don't know if they all work. Do we have the storage for it? Do we know where we're going to put it? Do we have a big enough car for this? But it's an opportunity. So you got to make a decision.
Yeah.
And you got to do it quick.
Yeah.
And so I think if Ken was in the situation, he's like, all right, I'll take several trips to load it all up, but I'm going to take it. And let's say he was living in the apartment, then the apartment would be full of the iPads. Because the thing is that the opportunity is there and the decision's going to be so quick that I may not know where I'm going to store this, but
that's
I'm
a
also
problem
not
that you
gonna
can
let
solve.
yeah, I'm not gonna let this opportunity go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's my decision there, right?
I
Yeah.
think your biggest strength in a situation like that, and we all find ourselves in that situation on a regular basis, right? In different ways, but like is like the ability to trust that you will figure it out, right?
That's true.
Yeah.
You're
And
basically
yourself.
betting on yourself in that
Yeah.
moment. Like, I don't know how it's going to happen, but I trust that I will be able to figure it out as I go.
Yeah.
And
And
building that kind of self-efficacy is going to take you further than like any one decision by itself is going to take you. Like you
Yeah.
have to learn how to rely on on your ingenuity, right? On your problem-solving skills.
that's definitely a process that you eventually, like Anna said, you build up your decision making abilities, your confidence in yourself, um, and be okay with the results, right? Like that's what you got to do. It's like if you put yourself, I mean, and a lot of times we are there's like Anna said, we have way more control than we think we have. Um, and if you don't want to go through this difficult time, then pass on it. Shut up, sit back, sit on the bench, have somebody else play. That's it.
And then your mind starts working.
No, yeah. At that point,
What if I could have
no,
gotten
at that
that?
Right.
point,
The
see, at
shoulda,
that
coulda,
point,
wouldas.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
where regret
Right.
sets in, right? And for me, I don't have a lot of regrets. I just say, no, it didn't work that way.
Yeah.
You cannot, because at that point you're just training your brain. I'm like, okay, back to listing.
Yeah.
Okay, back to finding other deals.
Right.
Because that's when a lot of people lose heart. It's like, oh man, I should have
Yeah.
took that. I should have took that. Next thing you know, there's two more deals that just passed, and
Yeah.
you're still stuck on the missed opportunity.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of times, right? Like you said, like you're gonna make it happen, but also what are the things that you're doing now that's prepping you for something bigger, right? Like you cannot handle something big if you're not prepped for it. So what are you trying to do efficiency wise? Like, like the big move that we did is we bought a minivan, and I gave up my car, and I was like, I'll just do a minivan. And a lot of people was like, oh, I'll never drive a minivan. I was like, minivans are nice, because my decision has already been made that it fits 200 pairs of shoes.
Yeah.
Like that's it. That's the decision I make. Their decision is to look cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool for you. Mine, it's comfy for me.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of times, like, if you cannot take the opportunity, and if you miss on an opportunity, look back on things where you could prep for the next one. And
Yeah, it kind of goes full circle back to like dreaming the next dream,
yeah,
right?
oh, that's true.
It's like,
Yeah.
what are
Dream it
you,
again.
what dream are you preparing for? What are you laying the groundwork for right now? Because one way or the other, whatever you're doing right now, you are laying the groundwork for something.
Yeah, whether you're
Whether
making an
that's-
action or not.
That's right. Whether that's growing more or a new dream or scaling back or maintaining, whatever you're doing now
That's a
counts
decision
towards
you make.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. So dream, decision making, or decisions and discipline are your reselling in 3D for today's episode. Anything else before we go?
No, that's how you dominate this year.
Yeah.
And I guess two more things. Huge shout out to our sponsors, eBay. Make sure you follow them at eBay for sellers, and also make your bookkeeping right by subscribing and trying out Seller Ledger. First month free, no credit card required. So we'll see you in the next episode. Peace.
See you.
Bye.